Good morning, world, and all who inhabit it. If you know what that quote's from, you're officially one of the top 10 people that I know that are the coolest here on this earth. Good morning, and welcome to the Metapod Pokemon TCG podcast, the podcast that revolves around the evolving meta about the Pokemon trading card game. Sean, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. I had a very good week of Pokemon since we last spoke.
I actually had a good week of Pokemon too. I mean, you had a different good week of Pokemon.
Yes.
I think because if you haven't seen it yet on Sean's YouTube channel,
Twitch. I haven't put it on the YouTubes.
Oh, you haven't seen it. Anyways, if you missed out on Sean's live opening on Twitch, Sean opened up some insane. Literally, like I'm not gonna lie, Sean, and this isn't just to gas you up or to gas up the Metapod. I literally think you had the best polls out of anybody that I watched on Celebrations, out of all the content creators that got like free product from TPCI.
I don't know how there's only one card that I could have added to the collection on that day. I will say I did post on Twitter. If you do want to follow my Twitter or check it out, the craziest pack I think that can be opened. It was Charizard and Full Art Professor's Research in the same pack, which was absolutely insane. But just for the viewers at home on YouTube, I'm just showing you some of the hits so you get the highlight. We did get the Charizard, we got the Blastoise, and the Venusaur. We also got a Gold Mew. We got Full Art Research.
So literally like 5 of the top 6 cards. Like the only thing that you're missing is that Gold Star Umbreon. That's it.
Well, you say I'm missing it, but I got one ETB at MSRP from a local game store. And the first pack of that was Gold Star Umbreon. You literally
completed the whole set.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are technically cards I don't have, but, like, in terms of the chase cards, yeah, like, 50 packs is all it took me to get all the chase cards. It's crazy.
I'm telling you, Sean got the best hands for opening packs of cards. You know, he's always opening the Charizards. Well, you got the Shining Fates Charizard. Did you get the Hidden Fates Charizard as well?
I did.
Yeah, like there's no stopping you. Somebody like you should have done Powerball, Sean. What were you doing opening up Pokemon cards?
I mean, you know, I'm doing well enough in other areas. My partner has done well enough to where I don't have a job anymore. So so
like that's like what I'm doing now, except you're smart about it.
But yeah, these two, Jake, are coming to you. I've got to get to the mailbox to the post office today, but Full Art Research. And to anybody out there wondering about pull rates, because I did get a few people asking me questions. I think that like depends on the card that you want, but like this Pikachu, you should not spend too much money on this because it is very common to pull. Like I would say 1 in every 10 packs, maybe. That's not to say it's not amazing.
Just look up the prices in general of the Celebration set. Like not only the regular set, but also the classic collection. Like it's not very expensive at all. Aside from like the Umbreon and the Charizard and
is there any
stuff like that.
I guess maybe Gold Mew may be kind of expensive. But
yeah, like I mean, I'm looking at it right now. Like the Umbreon is $70, the Shiny Magikarp $36, Blastoise $23, Mega Rayquaza EX $20, Mewtwo EX $20, Venusaur $18, Birthday Pikachu $18, Mew EX $13, Gardevoir $12. Like it's pretty cheap. And then the Full Art Professor's Research is like $8.50 as of like 2 a.m. last night. So
that's okay. I'm going to say this right now. If you ever wanted to get a playset of Research, and the reason I say this is
right now.
Yeah, like I will. The one thing that's interesting, Jake, is that the Professor's Research, the Oak version, which is new, is still Block D. They did not add a Block E. So technically, Research could very well rotate next set, which is a little sad. I would definitely be sad because I like the concept of them doing all the different researches and having that be like a new staple card like Ultra Ball or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So I would be sad, but like $8, if you ever wanted a playset of Research, this is a banger. And for $8 a pop, you can't get better than that. That's insane.
And especially like if you play expanded as well, because like discard draw 7 has been around for a while. It's in pretty much almost every single deck.
Yeah.
So like if you need discard draw 7s, boom, there's your cheapest option. Because let me tell you, Professor Juniper from like Boundaries Crossed or whatever that is in the black and white era, very expensive. I can tell you what it was a year ago and how I'm crying that I didn't buy it. And now it's like over 80, but we won't talk too much about that. But we do, Sean, have some stuff to talk about today. Not only do we have some big news that immediately dropped after last week's podcast revolving around Play Pokemon, but also we've got some big thanks to give on this podcast, and then talking a little bit about the meta and how that's holding up, and then how the general public is holding up as well in some sticky situations. But before I do anything else, I just want to thank the Triple P podcast, the Pittsburgh Pokemon podcast, for having me on for another week. It was basically our year anniversary together. I was their first guest on that podcast, and they're like, hey, it's actually been like a whole year since you've been on. I was like, oh, you know what? Year anniversary. Now we have to do this every single year, to the end of time. So it's a excellent Pokemon podcast. It's a great crew of dudes and who have a ton of fun just talking about the Pokemon trading card game. So if you want more Pokemon podcasts to listen to, go look up the Pittsburgh Pokemon podcast. Sean, you're on an episode of there, right?
I think so. I can never. My memory is horrible. I believe I'm on one of the Triple Ps, but I could be on one of the other podcasts as well. I don't know.
I have officially, now that I've been on Triple P, Tag Team, and Flow T-Cast podcasts, now that I've been on those 3, my goal now is to be on every single active Pokemon trading card game podcast. So I need the Heat Factory. I need y'all to hit me up.
Pokedads.
What?
Pokedads.
Yeah, Pokedads. I'm not a dad, let me tell you, but like I got some great insight. If you want, like, there's a lot of good Pokemon podcasts out there.
There are. Jake, do you want to? I think we're doing something a little different for the review today. We have a couple of people to thank, so I'll let you take that away as well.
Yes, so instead of the 5-star review this week, I wanted to give a good old shout out to Andrew on Twitter. Andrew, the last couple weeks, has sent us V-Union codes. We've talked about how V-Union codes and boxes and stuff were impossible to find. And it's like, I don't know if it's still $15 a code for a V-Union box, but it was $15 at the time. And so Andrew, someone that listens to the podcast, had sent along a Mewtwo and Greninja code. So I've been using it. I've been trying it. I haven't been having a lot of success with it, but the V-Unions are really, really fun, Sean. It's the sweetest animation that I've ever seen.
Yes.
And it's super, super cool. Did you look up what price it was?
It is $15 still.
Do not buy V-Union codes. It's an absolute scam in my opinion.
But I mean, well, here's the problem, right? Like, I think the codes are too expensive. The Pikachu one, amazingly, is only $10.
Good. I mean, that's still too expensive, but good.
But like, the one thing I will say is with PTCG Live coming at an unknown date in the near future, it's one of those, like, if you don't get the code, like, it's not like you're going to be able to trade for these probably. I don't know.
I wonder if you'll be able to dust for the V-Union.
That's a weird, I don't know how they're going to deal with that, because it's like its own weird little card set.
And it's also like, I don't know if they do it for promos in general, right? Like, it makes sense to do the main set, right? I want a Tapu Lele from Guardians Rising. Well, I just trade 5,000 gold or whatever, and boom, I have a Tapu Lele. But like, will promos work the same way? Like, that's the big thing that I'm curious about. I don't know if they'll do promos.
Yeah, I mean, all things that we'll have to see, I guess. I would hope they do, but they may do it where all of the promo products are available in the store for like coins, maybe. You know how they do that for like the theme decks? You can actually buy the theme decks just straight up in the stores now.
Yeah.
They may do that, which, like, that would be kind of cool. Like you don't have to dust. You can just save up coins from gameplay and then get the V-Union box code basically just in the store natively. That could be another option.
Interesting. But Andrew said that they listen to the podcast religiously every week, learning so much. Keep up the great work. And I just want to say thank you for supporting the podcast. Thank you for giving out some V-Union codes. I super, super appreciate it. And then also, to continue on that, we're going to actually make this a special 2 review week. Oh my gosh, there's a cat jumping in your background, Sean, and I love it. Anyways, Squirrel. Anthony also on Twitter sent us a very, very nice DM about 5-star review and how this would be their 5-star review if they could leave it. So I just wanted to read it. So shout outs to you, Anthony. You sent this like 2 months ago, but I just saw this because both Sean and I control the podcast. So we're gonna talk about it now. Started your podcast a couple weeks ago and listened to it every day and finally caught up. Recently got back into the TCG. You guys are informative, have a good energy and banter. Also, both of you have great taste in anime. You know, it had anime, Sean. I had to mention it, you know.
This is for those of you on YouTube, I'm showing Jake the pin that I showed him earlier from Naruto that I got. So
Sean ended up going to the Comic-Con was this weekend. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to Comic-Con now that I don't live in Indy. I have the time. I don't have the money. Well, because if I go to a con, Sean, I am buying all these different knickknacks and I am buying all these different sweet things. And
I'm lucky to live, like I live basically in New York City. So when there's New York Comic, I've never actually been, but I was like, it was just easy. It's super easy for me relatively.
It is definitely a good time to be alive. And especially if you love the Play Pokemon Championship Series, Sean.
Yes, indeed. As is custom for the Metapod, whenever we release an episode, big news is sure to follow. Not because it's on our podcast, but because the Pokemon Company apparently likes dropping news on Tuesdays.
This is also why we're recording early Tuesday morning. If you didn't see me drinking out of my coffee mug, we're recording early Tuesday morning because Pokemon were on to you. It was a slow news week outside of last Tuesday. It was a slow news week. So I'm looking after, I'm watching you.
Yeah.
But anyways.
Yeah. Like they announced that 2022 season is set to go at the beginning of next year. Obviously, no official dates or anything in terms of tournaments or whatever have been set yet. We still have like 2.5 months before it would, officially start. But yeah, the Play Pokemon Championship Series set to start again. World set to happen again next year. Point thresholds, it seems, it looks like unchanged. They haven't announced anything at least, but my gut would be that the only things that will have to be adjusted are like the international like prizing, like the travel awards. And they basically but for most of the people listening, travel stipends are not something that anyone is really that worried about. So all of your points from if you were a player like me and Jake who played back in the Dizzy of real play.
The 2019 Championship Series.
Those points will roll over whatever you had from that year. And so, I think for whatever region you're in, I think the point threshold will be the same. And you'll have about 6 months to get all the points that you need to get to Worlds if you don't already have it. Very exciting
There's
stuff.
a lot of... Sorry, Sean?
I just said very exciting stuff.
There's a lot of information that is still left up in the air. There's a lot of information that we still don't know about, but they did say through an article on Pokemon.com that it mentions a 2022 North American Championships. So that would be very, very nice over here. And no specific time mentioned about when that would happen, but they did mention a European Championship planned for April 2022. So when Sean mentioned that coming back in April 2022, the Pokemon.com article slated that European Championships will be around that time. So we did talk about last week. We will track back to it real quick. Recently added that Chile, the Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Malta, and Uruguay were added to countries that were allowed to do casual play, non-CP events, like weekly league meetups and maybe weekly league buy-ins, things of that nature, alongside Australia and New Zealand, who have been out for a while. It'll be very, very interesting. They did mention a couple different things. I don't know if we've talked about this previously on the podcast, but all attendees will be required to wear face mask coverings, and eating and drinking will not be permitted in the venue except for designated areas, of course. Players will be required to sanitize their hands when switching opponents and will skip the start of match handshake. Each match will also be required 3 or more feet away from other matches and spectators. And also, players, audience, and staff attending events of 300 or more people must be vaccinated. There is a requirement of vaccination. Attendees who were required must provide proof of full vaccination, the final dose of the vaccine having been administered at least 2 weeks prior to the event.
Yep. Yeah, I think that's the biggest news, is this like vaccine requirement and needing to have received it 2 weeks prior to the event, which makes sense, right? From a scientific standpoint, from an immunization, usually they say 2 to 3 weeks after you receive your final dose. So if for whatever reason, you are an individual who was waiting, I suppose, to get the vaccine, if you want to attend any Play Pokemon events, if you want that to be a part of your life in 2022, now is the time to do it, because it will take you the vaccine, several weeks between then and the next shot, and then several weeks after that. So, if that's something you want to do, just do it. Get the vaccine. So,
and we will get more news about Play Pokemon and the different updates in terms of coming back into play. We know that, throughout 2019, throughout 2020, and 2021, there were plans to have Worlds that ended up getting canceled. When did those get canceled? Like March?
Yeah, they
February?
got canceled far in advance. Yeah.
Yeah. So hold your breath, everybody. Don't get your hopes too high up. It's very exciting. I'm very exciting, but I think we should all kind of get back to reality and remember that we're still in a panorama, and it's still kind of ugly out there, especially for some states.
Yes.
I will say. So just make sure you're doing your part in keeping the world safe, and then we'll be back to normal shortly. Yeah. I will say.
That's essentially all the news from Pokemon. I guess with celebrations dropping, that was all they needed. It was just like, everybody's going to be talking about this. We got no other news. So Jake, we can talk.
Everybody's gonna have their faces in Target and GameStop and all those different places. But Sean, have you been playing in terms of? I know you did a little bit IRL Pokemon right before like a Digimon Locals at one point. Have you been playing Standard at all?
Not really. I did play a little bit on my stream. With Greg, who came onto the stream, played a little bit of Standard, but no. Otherwise, I still haven't had the chance to play. But there's a couple of places like Locals that are doing some Pokemon, like small numbers. So that will be something that I hopefully make it out to in the near future. It's not frequent enough, and it's always on like certain evenings that are very difficult for me.
I went to a Locals the other day, for anyone who didn't see on Twitter. I have a bunch of cards that I want to offload, like just a bunch of like bulk ultra rares and things like that I'm trying to just like get rid of and trade to people. And so I went to this Locals to play in their like local league or whatever. And I ended up playing the only deck that I could build, Mad Party.
Okay.
Sean, I ended up going in and playing Mad Party. It's actually, in my opinion, the best budget deck that you could probably play right now.
Even with all the quick, tell me how you got around quick shooting in Teleon.
You just go faster than your opponent and you dodge the quick shooting. So okay, so I did face like a quick shooting deck. I faced Inteleon, VMAX Inteleon, and I just donked him.
Oh, okay.
He just had his Inteleon there and like Inteleon V. And so I said, I'm going to go zoom, zoom, zoom. And then didn't even have a chance to get those poor old Sobbles down. So that's how you beat. That's how you beat quick shooting.
Because you're right. They do have to evolve. So it takes them a turn, 2 turns if they want to get into the quick shooting. Okay. I like that. And I think I saw on your Twitter you talked about, was that Azul's list that you were running?
Yeah, so Azul posted a YouTube video not too long ago about Mad Party, and it doesn't have celebrations in it because celebrations just came out. But I don't think there's really celebrations. Maybe the Mew.
Yeah, like you might run a 2 of Mew maybe in the deck that just to help you pull out the I imagine like the trainer cards, like the different ball search cards that
like the level balls or the great balls and stuff like that, because you are running like 2 or 3 air balloons in the list, so it's not all that out of the ordinary to be running the Muse. But I think honestly I think it was a perfect budget deck, to be honest. Like the most expensive things it used to be was the Mr. Rhymes, Sean, because those are a rare card. That's like the only rare of the attackers or the Mad Partiers that you have. And I actually bought 2 of them the day so I thought the tournament started at 6:30 because that's what the guy over the phone told me. It actually started at 6. So when I showed up at 5:55, I had to hurry up and do my buy-in. And so I played with 2 Mr. Rhymes that were not Mad Party.
Oh, just like random Mr. Rhymes. You're like, oops.
Well, my plan was to buy the correct Mr. Rhymes before the tournament and then sleeve it up. But I ended up going 3-1 anyways. So filthy busted broken deck. And again, it's super cheap if you want to play something right now, if you want to build something without too much risk. And Mad Party in general is just like, it's a ton of fun. And so you can have a bunch. Again, Azul GG's YouTube video lays out the list. It's a very good list. Love it. And I just wanted to mention it because Mad Party is not going to be one of the decks that we talk about in the meta, but I think it's like a really good budget deck that people, especially if you're new to the game, you should work towards playing right now.
That's a good point. Yeah. I know we talked about it, I want to say a week or 2 ago, like how maybe it's not a good 1 prize deck, but obviously to your point about just going fast, if you can consistently go fast enough to like donk them and start swinging 150, 180, whatever the number is by turn 2, maybe it's just too fast for those decks to respond, and you're going to take prizes faster than they can.
I think that it also has to do with the difference between like locals and also, the late night series that we're going to talk about here, some of the results. It's 2 very, very different metas. With the local meta, here were my matchups, Sean. Round 1, Inteleon v Inteleon. Okay. It's kind of abstract. People aren't really playing Inteleons. They play Ice Riders instead, Second round, Smeargle Eldegoss. Do you know what that deck is?
Oh boy, is this the one where it does more damage for each basic energy on it?
Or it's more damage for each different type of basic energy in your hand. And Eldegoss allows you to grab 2 energies with its ability. So you just get a bunch of Eldegoss, you get your Smeargles, and
I could see that being difficult for Smeargle against Mad Party, because like you're gonna output a very consistent amount of damage and they're still taking only 1 prize a turn.
Yeah, like I had this really cheeky play where I got rid of. So the biggest thing for them is like getting the attachments, because the energy requirement is 2 colorless. So personally, I think you should just play twin energy. But maybe it just doesn't work in the list because there's no good way to search it out. I don't know. But like you play EXP shares in their deck, you play Raihan's as well. Raihan being a terrific card that has seen a ton of play since its release in Evolving Skies. And I had a really, really cheeky play where they had an EXP share on their bench Smeargle, and they had another Smeargle with 1 energy because it was their first turn, so they just attached the energy. And so what I did was, because Mad Party only needed 4 attackers in the discard, I didn't have to like research and do this, that, and the other and stuff. So I just boss up the 1 Smeargle, and then I used Tool Scrapper, because I am a firm believer on playing Tool Scrapper shot.
Mm-hmm. We've talked about it.
I tool scrappered the EXP share, and that just put me so far ahead in the game.
Yeah.
But it's a cool deck. It was a fun deck. I highly recommend, if you can find anybody talking about it. That is also a cool budget deck, and I like Smeargle a lot. So cool Pokemon. But anyways, round 3, I played against Sanders' control list. Someone was playing Sanders' control list. That's pretty much an auto loss for Mad Party. Is no hope.
Once they get rid of all your twin energies, and you're just like, well, poop.
Well, they don't even have to do that. I mean, they just get the Dusknoir out. They get the Dusknoir that turns all special energies into a single colorless energy. So, like, if I want to attack with Mad Party, I either need 2 lightning energies on a Pokemon, or I need 2 twin energies.
That's so bad.
Yeah, it was just not good. I mean, I will admit, I had a slow start. Mm-hmm. And I think at one point I got a little greedy. I think at one point, because I was like, I have to go. Like, I have to start taking these knockouts quickly, like, against this deck before it sets up. And I think I got a little bit punished for that, but that's okay, because I don't think it's a good matchup for that anyways. And then round 4, which was the final round, I played against like a Mew, Garbodor VMAX, Slowking VMAX. So like the meta, essentially what I'm trying to say is the meta is very different from locals to like your online tournaments that you're playing. So I think Mad Party is great for something like locals and maybe ladder, like Pokemon TCG ladder. But when it comes to like a late night series tournament or like a chill tournament or whatever, like
yeah, it's not cutting it through like a big tournament where people are, when there's 100+ people or whatever.
Yeah, like when Play Pokemon comes back in April, Sean, I don't know if I'd take Mad Party to the North American Championships.
No, but you might take it to your league, your Pokemon League championship or whatever.
Yeah, I get some store credit every time I walk in the door, which is always what I like. I love store credit.
But I mean, looking at those big tournaments in terms of like the meta with a capital M, I think what's the most surprising to me since the last time we talked about it is now a single strike Urshi is at the top of the meta share. So yeah, just above Dragapult and Inteleon, which I think did talk about very briefly being like the new Inteleon partner is Dragapult over Rapid Strike Urshifu, it seems like, just because of between the extra damage spread and also the weakness. There's not really like Eternatus is not really being played. You see here at 4. So there's not really a dark type other than the Umbreon that you got to worry about. And because of that, you're hitting 2 of the top decks for weakness, and you're like, okay, cool. We'll just do that.
Yeah, and I mean, you just have such diversity with Single Strike, Urshifu VMAX, and Umbreon VMAX. Like, you have so many different things that you can do. Going in with the Urshifu Vs and using like Impact Blow or whatever Impact Blow is that attack. Doing a 180 without the extra damage. With the single strike energies, you get the single strike energies on that Urshifu V and use Impact Blow. You're knocking out opposing Vs.
Yeah.
Right? Because you're doing 200 with just 1 energy, and then 220, which knocks out a ton of different VMAXs with 2 of the energies, which is very easy with the Houndoom and just attachments in general. And that doesn't even start to look at the different attacks that Max Darkness brings out. You already said hitting for a weakness or just simply 2-shotting, right? VMAXs. If you're not hitting for a weakness, which is a big deal in my opinion. And then Urshifu VMAX, Single Strike Urshifu VMAX, freaking love that card. So cool, just whacking literally anything out of existence with Gmax one blow, base damage 270. So cool, Sean.
Yeah, I mean, and I think the nice thing about this, and you know, I'm sure the people who are a little bit deeper into the meta, honestly, like playing it day in and day out, but the fact that a deck that has the effect of this attack's damage isn't affected by effects on the active, it also means Decidueye is not a problem, right? Like
Zamazenta,
right.
not a problem.
So like this being at the top actually makes the wall stall decks not viable comparatively. That's not to say that you can't play them to maybe see some success, but that means you have to dodge some of these attackers, which can be tough.
I mean, Decidueye Inteleon has not done well as of late, that being one of the decks that you mentioned, but even with that, you think, oh, so then that's not necessarily there. Zacian is seeing a lot of play. A lot of people are playing Zacian decks right now, kind of like Turbo Zacian, and they play the Zamazentas.
Let me see this Zacian. Some of these Zacian lists. It's got a 7 and 2 list here. Yeah, it's got 2 Zamazentas. So 2 Zams for specific matchups, I suppose.
And I mean, especially with the Cape of Toughness as well and the Crystal Cave, like, honestly, you just kind of want to one-hit the Zamazentas and just get them out of there as soon as possible. And so it brings a lot of diversity for the single strike deck. And I just wish Umbreons were cheaper. Sean, I can't get my hands on them.
Yeah, it's just one of those cards that like it's still a little expensive. Some of the Evolving Skies cards are just still like a little bit high in price.
Well, Umbreon is arguably the most popular evolution, right? So it's obviously the chase card for a lot of people to get.
Any other, I mean, like in terms of the rest of the meta though, there's not really a ton more that has changed. I mean, the fact that there's as many Corviknights as there are Eternatus is pretty wild to me. Just to be frank with you.
I mean, some people have been campaigning. I've seen the Corviknight. We have seen, though, especially with the different cards that have come through, whatchamacallit? What's the set that we just had? Celebrations. Yeah. Celebrations. There have been people trying out different decks. People have been trying out different archetypes of the
Pikachu,
of the thingamadoodah, the different decks from Celebrations and the different cards. And Sean, have you seen any cool ideas?
Well, I mean, I don't think there are any major ideas that are particularly cool. I do think that what people are realizing is that perhaps Pikachu V Union is actually the best V Union from a pure potential standpoint. And we did mention this on when we talked about all the different Celebrations cards. But for those of you who don't know, Pikachu V Union has one specific attack called Disconnect. And what that attack does is it says your opponent can't play any trainer cards, or item cards, I should say. It's not trainer, it's item cards from their hand on their turn. That is something that I don't believe there's not a card that turns that effect off anymore. Like there used to be, I can't remember the name of it, but there used to be a card that would basically reset effects on you.
Pretty sure that's Hex Maniac.
Well, there's like, that was an older card, but there was another one that it recently did that. But I think
Pokemon
it rotated.
Ranger?
Yeah, kind of, but anyways, it was a card nobody ever played, point being. And I don't even think that card is illegal in Standard now. So if you think about, though, like Vikavolt is another card that is Standard legal, but that people don't play as much. The reason being is it's not hitting enough damage, and without Pikarom in the format, it's not really very consistent. So it's not beefy enough. It doesn't hit a lot of damage. And yes, item lock is really, really strong. If you can pull it off turn one going second, that's kind of the key with that strategy. And Pikachu V Union is not only turning off items, it is item locking you, but it does 150 damage while doing that, which if you combine that with any sort of like random pings, like Zigzagoons, maybe you have a quick shooting Inteleon, I don't know. If you had that combo though, then you're basically two-shotting everything in the format and turning off item cards, which, in theory would make the Pikachu V Union an absolutely broken card if you could get it off turn 1. But that is not something you can really do in Standard. Jake, you did talk about Expanded, though, briefly before we started recording. So do you want to talk about like the opportunity there?
The opportunity to play and excel with Pikachu VMAX. If you want to take all 25 Pikachus and go on a 25 win streak, you do it in Expanded. Pikachu V Union. We talked about the different parts of Lightning Pokemon in the past, like Pikachu and Zekrom, not even mentioning, Tapu Koko VMAX accelerating extra energy. Sean, that's a lovely cat you have there. I love them. But also things like Thunder Mountain as well, Electro Power. You get 2 Electro Powers down, you're doing 210 damage, knocking out the Vs alongside things like Battle Compressor, Thunder Mountain, again, as I mentioned, to take off that 1 energy. Again, you have the Pikachu and Zekrom to accelerate that energy. And so being able to do all those different things and have different damage modifiers like you were talking about that you could add in Standard, but in this instance using item cards in Expanded,
Battle Compressor.
Pikachu V Union is gross.
Yeah, I mean, I think honestly the Thunder Mountain, it didn't even cross my mind, because you think about the V Unions, Battle Compressor is the thing that you really need in Standard, and we don't have that. And the fact that it's in Expanded means that all you need is like a Battle Compressor and one other thing, and all of a sudden your V Union is live turn 1, which is much easier. And then, with Thunder Mountain, and whether you run it with Pikarom or you just run it with any other way to attach a second energy on turn 1, you could get Disconnect going, turn 1 going second in that deck, which is super gross. And that's one of the things where, like, I don't really play a lot of Expanded. I've almost never played Expanded, but the V Unions actually may be the cards that bring me into Expanded, because I actually really like a lot of the attacks, and it's just too complicated in Standard. But if I might, it'll be really interesting to see if once they open back up competitive play, if they either decide to ban Battle Compressor, which I know a lot of PokeTubers have talked about. But if
Please don't.
I don't want them to, actually, because if they don't, then that is the home that V Unions now have. Is surprisingly, they printed a card that has a perfect home in Expanded, not Standard. And that's actually really exciting, that you have a card that doesn't work in Standard and never has, but all of a sudden it is the king of Expanded. I like that as a mechanic.
I think also people that have been playing for as long as we have, so since the release of Team Up, I think you probably have several of the different cards that you're going to want. I mentioned the Tapu Koko, I mentioned the Thunder Mountain, Pikachu V Union just came out. What?
Tapu Leles.
Yeah, Tapu Leles, very, very recent. You can get those relatively cheap online. I think Battle Compressors in general are pretty inexpensive. The only thing that's really, really, really going to cost you a couple bucks is those more very, very old niche black and white ace specs, your computer search, like Dowsing Machine or something. I have an Expanded deck right here because actually next week my locals is meeting for Expanded. And I'm missing a couple cards, and one of the cards is a computer search. So I think I'm going to have to, I don't know, put an Opal or a Red's Challenge in my deck or something like that. I'm playing aggro anyway, so I don't use too many item cards because I've got the item lock Vileplume. So putting a Red's Challenge or an Opal actually wouldn't be the worst idea, but there's no true replacement for some. It's like a tropical beach. There's no real replacement for a tropical beach.
Yeah. I mean, it'll be I think, Jake, we had one person request that we talk about Expanded soon. So maybe if you're doing an Expanded tournament, I think that next week could be a good week to talk about it, because you'll have some experience playing in a format. You'll get to tell us what other people, granted locals is different, but I don't think there's a lot of Expanded happening anyway, so locals might be just as valid as the online circuit. I think that could be a lot of fun.
I think also there's a couple different tournaments in Expanded by the time we have our next podcast, including an Atlas Mini, some Excalibur, and then a couple other ones as well. And then there are some that there are also some that have gone on recently as well that we could also add into the mix. The Expanded tournaments usually aren't super it's not a big plethora, but every once in a while we get a moment where there's a couple in a single like 2 weeks or something that give us kind of a good evaluation of the expanded meta, and especially because people like Stefan Ivanov. He's actually been doing a lot of expanded content on Twitch and stuff. He's been working on a Dragonite list that he created, Dragonite V, Sean.
Yes, I did see that.
With the double dragon energy.
Yeah, that's a card that like I probably will need to buy for expanded for a variety of decks. I don't have any double dragon energies, but yeah, I think that's a good topic for next week is to dive a little bit into the world of expanded, because I think that it probably has gotten shaken up a little bit by all the new Vs and V unions that have come out over the last 6 months.
Yeah, like I've been playing Expanded Ladder for the last like 36 hours or so. I've been playing a lot more PTCGO lately. And I've been touching on Expanded to try to get ready for the Expanded buy-in so that I don't go 0-4 drop or whatever, but there's a lot more Vs and VMAXs that I assumed.
Yeah.
VMAXs have a much bigger impact on the meta than I thought, and it kind of is cool. I like it, especially when you talk about like Aqua Patch and Ice Rider VMAX. Man, I like Aqua Patch and I like Ice Rider VMAX. So it's two peas in a pod right there.
Jake, is there anything else about the meta we want to talk about, or do we want to get to our last little topic here about the world of Pokemon at large?
I think we can talk about the world of Pokemon at large. So, Sean, do you want to head this topic, or do you want me?
I'm happy to use. So those of you who follow like the PokeTuber world in particular may have heard about the drama that happened with UnlistedLeaf over the last week. And for those of you who don't, I'll give you a quick rundown of what it was. I will preface it by saying there's probably details that I don't know. I'm not following this super closely, but in a nutshell, UnlistedLeaf, Ando is his name, Australian PokeTuber, most known for just doing openings, right? He's like the Leon Harts of the world, like just the people who like open packs on their channel. He partnered with StockX, which is like kind of like a hype beast eBay. It's the best way I can frame it. But like they're known for doing shoes, but they also got into trading cards recently. He partnered with them to do a pack break, and the drama comes around the price and what you actually were getting versus what was advertised for the pack break. The price was $60 for 3 celebrations packs. Now, those of you who follow the celebrations world and the prices of things a little more closely will know that $60 for 3 packs is extraordinarily high. It's stupid. It's a stupid amount of money. But you could make the argument, you're not just getting the packs for that. The way it was billed is like, Ando will be there, and it's like your favorite PokeTuber opening your packs live on their stream, and he signs a energy card for you, and the top hits get graded by PSA, and like, okay, it's expensive for 3 packs, but all of those things combined, and the fact that you're supporting a creator that you love, like, maybe there's a world in which that's worth it. But the rub came in when you looked at a bit of the fine print. And this, I will preface this by saying that I don't also think it's all Ando's fault. It was largely a communication issue. But it turns out that Ando would not be the one opening your packs. It was just someone from the StockX company in LA, and Ando would be live reacting to it. And I'm like, I mean, I get why from a logistics standpoint, but no, that's not what people want. And then the second point was that top hits get graded. It was really just 20 cards for the whole opening. And if they sold like 6,000 packs, right? That means they're probably going to open some large number of those top hits, whether it's Charizards, Umbreons, whatever. So
yeah, it's like 24,000 cards.
Right. And like, okay, 20 hits out of 24,000 get graded for that price. Like, I get it. PSA has a massive backlog. And the fact that StockX has negotiated a 2-week turnaround on this stuff, don't get me wrong, impressive. I'm sure that cost them some money. But that is not what people are expecting when you tell them top hits get graded. Like if somebody pulled an Umbreon out of their 3 packs, but there was more than 20 Umbreons pulled, your Umbreon may not get graded. That is buck wild. Straight up, like that would be like, what am I paying for? Ando didn't open it. You didn't grade my card. Like, what am I getting out of this? So there was a huge backlash against Ando for this. And the backlash was extreme, and Unlisted Ando has decided to, for now at least, who knows what will happen in the long future, but to shut down his YouTube channel, which is actually, it's pretty sad. He was receiving, as he said on his Instagram, death threats and other things, which is really like, just don't buy it. If you don't like something, just don't buy it, right? You can have a negative opinion about a person. You can keep it to yourself.
You can let them know.
Right. You can say, hey, I don't think what you're doing is good. But death threats are not the thing to do. Jake, what do you think about this whole situation?
I have UnlistedLeaf's kind of announcement pulled up because he had posted it on social media. So he also mentions in there, quote, just to clarify, I didn't set the price or take a % off the break. Didn't have a say in how the packs were opened either. Tried to make it a little better with the prizes and increasing the cards graded, but obviously it was not enough. I'm sorry. So I think that's another thing to account. I think especially as well, I think this was very obviously influenced from Logan Paul.
Yes.
And the box breaks that he did. And so Ando being the biggest PokeTuber, right?
Well, yeah.
That is out there. How many? He's got like
Several
over 2 million, right?
Yeah. It's like him, Leonhardt, maybe Max Mofo, depending, like pseudo dedicated or dedicated PokeTubers.
So like there is this market for them to do this kind of thing. And I agree with your sentiments on like, okay, you read the fine print and then obviously things were not as they seem. And I agree with being upset about it. I think if you're upset about it, you should let someone know. You should give your feedback, right? Because the biggest thing that content creators want is feedback. Is the stuff that I'm doing working? Do you like what I'm doing? That like when they really say leave a like and a comment, they really mean, please, if you like it, let me know so I
do more.
Know that it's good. But I don't think anything, I don't like, especially for this, like this does not prompt death threats. No. This does not prompt abuse, hate, endless social media, like just absolute evil. Like people are people, for crying out loud. Like, this guy's been making YouTube videos for 8 years and he's had a smile on his face the whole time. And he's had this huge boisterous, you know, personality. And I don't think people realize that there is more to a person beyond that personality that you see on screen. Because for content creators, they only want you to see what they want you to see, right? They don't ever show you the back or maybe your true self per se. Like Sean, I assume that you probably have things that you don't put on camera. You have hobbies, you have identities, you have different things about yourself that have never been shown on camera. And that's okay because you can't be on camera all the time. And
it's healthy. That's a healthy thing.
Yeah, like that's completely normal to have like your own space. And so like I hate seeing like this is
it is
like it's so dumb that it came to this point.
Yeah, I mean, it's just I think giving people the opportunity to apologize is a little bit condescending. That's not, I don't mean it like that, but giving people the opportunity to like, hear criticism and feedback and make changes is important. Even if you're not, and I'd say the same thing honestly about Logan Paul. Like, as much as I don't love what he has done for the community, if he were open to hearing feedback and criticism and cared, then that would be a good thing. The fact that he's not is the problem. But yeah,
I think the biggest thing as well with Ando is like he said it very clear in his post. Like, there was a lot of things that he couldn't control about it, and that he tried to make better. I
will say this.
That's just a word. That's just a phrase.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that maybe there's a little bit read between the lines things like that.
I will say this. You may not be able to control what people are doing as prices, but you can control whether or not you're associated with it.
Yeah, so, that's another thing right there.
That's the one
that
I'm like
100% agree with.
I'm like, you probably should have been more vehement. I don't know any of the terms of any of these deals, but like, one can always be like, hey, $60 for 3 packs is wild. I don't think that makes sense, and I don't want to do it if it's that price, and they'll either change it or they'll find another PokeTuber who will do it.
Would you? So here's a question. Do you think so this is just getting into hypotheticals, because the other day when we were talking about the celebrations products and stuff, Sean was giving like what you would pay maximum for this. So we're going to call this segment, does Sean think it's worth it? That's what we're going to call this. So let's say you're still paying the $60 for the 3 packs, and Ando's, and it's still in the situation of Ando's not actually opening it. He's just kind of reacting to it. But instead of the 20 cards that get graded, what if you pull a Charizard or an Umbreon, you will get it graded? No matter how many there are, do you still think it's worth it if that clause itself changed? Because I think that's what a lot of people were upset at, is that they could, like you were mentioning, there could be 21 Charizards that get pulled, and then one of them is just not going to get graded. So do you think if there was a guarantee on the cards to get graded, it would be a little bit differently? I
think if there was a guarantee on, it'd have to be a longer list than just Charizard and Umbreon, because, people love research. People love this dang Pikachu, and that's not that expensive. I get from a financial perspective, it's probably not realistic, but my guess, StockX is a huge company, massive. I mean, for those of you who don't know, they are a venture capital funded company. They could certainly work out a deal. If they're selling 6,000 of these things for $60 a pop, that is $360,000 in revenue. That ain't nothing. And the fact that they have that much product to give away means they got a very cheap rate from their distributor for that. So I think they could have financially afforded to go to PSA and said, hey, here is $100,000. We need 2 or 3 graders for a couple days, a week, whatever, to just focus on this product. And it's like a whole collaboration. Like, you can do that. And that's advertising for PSA on top of, not that PSA needs the advertising, to be honest, but there's situations you could have worked out to do a lot more than 20 cards. And I think if people were like, hey, if you get one of these 10 cards, one of these 20 cards, or just a card from the classic collection, I think, a guaranteed PSA card, just as a reminder of like, hey, I participated in this box break. And it's like a commemorative thing almost. Like, to me, that would make it worth it, because to the point of like, people are still waiting 9 months sometimes for their graded cards to come back from PSA. So the benefit that you're getting of this like express shipping that is exclusive to the StockX, I think that would have been a very different situation. And then maybe you get 3 crappy packs and you feel a little bad, but like there's enough people who don't have that where it's overall okay. So
yeah, like at the end of the day, it's packs.
Right.
Right. Sometimes you hit big like Sean whenever he puts his magic fingers on packs. Those Charizards just suddenly appear in those packs. They weren't there before when they were packaged, but there they are. And then sometimes you're like me and you open up an ETB and you don't even get a holo rare. That's just how the cookie crumbles sometimes, Oh,
yeah. I mean, I think that would have certainly changed the the math on things for people, but that's not what they did.
You know, though, Sean, no matter what, you are going to come here to the Pokemon TCG podcast that revolves around the evolving meta, the Metapod, and you're going to get a grade A product. Well, hopefully.
A PSA 10 podcast. Maybe a 9.5.
PSA 10, question mark, question mark, question mark. But that is going to be all for today. Thank you so much for listening or watching on YouTube if you are doing that as well, to see our reactions and me laughing / pouring my coffee and Sean's cats jumping every which way and with his cat shirt that he's got. Oh my God. But Sean, thank you so much for joining me for another wonderful week. Hopefully Pokemon doesn't drop any news later today.
We will see.
Wait until like Thursday, please. Tuesday's not a good day.
All right. I'll see y'all later.
Bye.